2,
2,
1. 69.
And we're live.
42.
And you said you didn't last but 5 seconds. You said you were going to be an adult.
I said JR is going
adulting.
to be. I said JR is going to be an adult.
Okay.
I never volunteer to be the adult.
All right. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just 3 nerdy veterans geeking out over our scientific passions and fantastical fantasies, a place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction, although mostly that's talk. But without further ado, we're going to let our guests
try and match socks. It's bad.
That's because they're colored. Like I'm colorblind. I can't.
Your army socks. They are.
But they wear differently. It's different. You got to match the worn out pattern to the same.
JR, just stop.
What's that? Anyway, so Miss Amber L. Werner, author of many extraordinary things, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers?
Sure. Hi. Thank you guys for having me. I'm Amber L. Werner. I'm a fantasy author. I live in southwestern Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. I've got my husband, my dog, and my 2 kids, and we're just hanging out here.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like a lot to deal with.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild, crazy house over here with the kids running around like mad all the time.
Give them sugar; it makes everything better. So the next part of the introduction, Doc, don't give me that look.
The next
part of the introduction. I'm the dad; I can do that stuff. The next part of the introduction is how we first found them. So I was spent a couple days. You wouldn't be that mean to me.
Wait. If you're listening in the audience, let us know if you think I'm mean enough to send a shit ton of sugar to JR's kids for his Father's Day. See how well
anyway, we're going to move on. And hey, Doc, look, shiny book behind you. What? So the next part of the introduction is how we first found her. So when we were looking to diversify our guests, meaning find people I didn't already know, and we haven't already interviewed a few dozen times, I started looking at the bookish side of Instagram, and I found her book covers. And yes, I am that guy. I really do judge a book by its cover. So we invited her on. Don't judge me. I like pretty things.
I would be more worried about you judging a book by its cover if they didn't know you were colorblind.
Well, I mean, the book's covers are pretty.
So it's kind of funny that you're
dragons on them.
Potentially your most defective tool to judge a book.
I mean, okay, normally we would do this at the end, but come on, Doc, look at this. Look at this. It is pretty.
Oh, no. Her books are stellar. I love them.
Thank you.
Right? Like, all right. So, Doc, before we decide if she gets to stay, but it sounds like you've already bonded against me, so, we're probably not going to kick her. But you got to ask the religion questions.
Okay, so Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, or Conan the Barbarian. I did these backwards. Normally we do sci-fi first.
Oh, no worries. Out of this, I'm definitely gonna go Game of Thrones.
Nice. So how about Star Wars?
You don't like Wheel of Time?
Wheel of Time. Yeah, if you throw Wheel of Time in there, I would pick Wheel of Time just because it's finished versus Game of Thrones. Waiting a while for
Thrones, I honestly think Game of Thrones is finished. He just doesn't want to hear anybody complain about the ending, so he's going to publish a post-mortem. Posthumously.
Yeah.
That's the right word.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case.
I mean, it's kind of fun. He gets all the attention still.
Mm-hmm.
So, Star Trek, Star Wars, or Firefly?
I definitely have to go with Star Wars there. My kids are both L names. Instead of Luke and Leia, I've got Logan and Luna. And my dog is actually named Wicket. So he's named after the Ewok from Return of the Jedi. I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Man, Nick should have come. They would be kindred spirits, and then JR could really be outnumbered. Because Nick would be compelled to take her side against JR. JR, for the record, Jar Jar Binks is amazing.
He was hilarious. I don't know what you're talking about. And for the record, there were 3 amazing Star Wars movies. It was so good. I wish they'd make more.
Well, my kids really love the first three, for sure.
What's the Clone Warriors, Clone Troopers show was pretty cool. I watched that one with the kids. So some of the new stuff isn't as bad as the jokes would imply, but
you know what? It's all okay. It's okay. That's why they give tissues. Because how the Star Wars fans are when they leave the movie theater, they're always crying.
It's just so amazing.
Sure.
So we here at the Blasters and Blades podcast like both the fantastical and the scientific. Well, what was your first love, sci-fi or fantasy?
I'm going to go with fantasy there. I was a big reader as a kid. The Chronicles of Narnia, I read that as a child. Some of the Roald Dahls, like Matilda and the BFG, those were like big favorites of mine when I first started reading on my own. So that like really opened up my lifelong love of fantasy there.
Okay. So what was your first memory of engaging in the fantasy though? Then was it the doll books or was it something else?
Well, I think like even before that, I was a big Disney fan and like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, those fairy tale stories, like even before I started reading on my own, those had me in the fantasy realm already, thinking about, living under the sea or with a big beastly husband.
I mean, for the library, you do a lot of nasty things. I'm just saying. It was a
true.
Big library.
That was a beautiful library.
I mean, yeah. I'd put up with JR for that.
Oh. And she just keep telling me short jokes. So what is it about speculative fiction as a genre that you love so much?
I would say my favorite thing is probably magic. I just love reading stories with magic and, anything where it's just out of the ordinary. It just makes it so much more fun than just your average story.
Okay. Magic is kind of cool. So how did your love of speculative fiction and all things magical transition into you deciding to write stories in this space?
Well, I would definitely say reading fantasy helped me to decide to become a fantasy writer. I'm a big fan of Brandon Sanderson, and I found his YouTube lectures, and that kind of jump-started me. I watched those, and it really got me to thinking, like, I can actually do this versus it just being a dream that was kind of unattainable.
I can get that. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, writing is hard. Not just the grammar part, which if you've read my emails, the grammar part is definitely a trial.
Yeah. Thank God for Pro Writing Aid.
JR, are you still there?
Yes, it's question 10 is next and you.
Oh, well, you stole one of my questions. I was being nice.
Okay.
So, have you had any real life experiences influence your writing, how you write?
Sure. I would say my kids are a big influence. My son in particular is a big nature freak. He's like all into documentaries right now about bugs and animals. And I used some of that as inspiration for some of the creatures I created in the Palisade trilogy. So that was pretty fun.
Nice. So
bugs are cool. I can get it. I can get behind that.
Bugs are something. Some bugs are cool. Some bugs are not.
Oh, they creep me out. He loves them though. Little boys, right?
There's something in the genetics.
Yeah.
It's definitely not in my X chromosomes.
Yeah, me either.
So getting into kind of the writing side of things, you're pretty new as an author, but you have an amazing, strong book series. But when those what are you looking forward to from a fan angle? Like, what is going to be that moment where you're like, oh, wow, I have made it as an author?
Well, it would be incredible to get fan art for sure. My sister is a fan fiction author, so she's like brought up the idea of doing fan fiction at some point. So that would be really cool to see too. I'd love to see what fans do with the story and different routes they could take with it.
We have all of her contacts listed in the show notes. So if you are a fan and you have some fan art, you now know how to find her and get that straight to her, and that it will make her so happy. Now, do you have any like events coming up where you're going to be out in public?
Oh, sure. I'm actually going to be at my first big book fest. It's called the Flemington Book Fest, and it's a Memorial Day weekend. I believe that the date is May 28th. So if you live in New Jersey, you can come out and see me there for sure.
That sounds awesome. I hope many people find you because you're awesome. We talked before the show. And getting into what is the amazing list of books that you have produced for us or us fans, readers?
Well, I've got my first book, Shadows That Bind Us. That's book 1 in the trilogy. It's all the Palisade trilogy. Muses That Align Us is book 2. And then Lines That Drew Us is book 3. And then if you go on my website, I also have a prequel you can get for free. It's called Fates That Entwine Us.
Okay. So as a new author, normally the introduction would take about half the show, but that's not going to happen today, which means we're going to play the commercial early, and then we are going to dive right into this book and give you a thrill ride.
Marked for death, brothers Kildare and Zidane must complete their journey to the volatile city of Galance. Beset with adversity, the pair are forced to rely on a reluctant ally in the hope of finding a way to save humanity from a fate worse than death. Should they arrive in time, the pair must overcome the Blood Watch, a squad of the deadliest swordsmen the world has ever seen. Unknown to the brothers, an assassin waits for them in the shadows, one who has sworn an oath to end their line forever. Orchestrating it all is Eliphas, the most powerful magus seen in centuries. Broken by the gods, Eliphas is bent on wreaking vengeance upon the world. The Raven and the Crow, The Grey Throne. Written by Michael K. Falciani and narrated by Joshua Saxon. Available from Three Ravens Publishing on Amazon.
All right, thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. But now let's talk about the book that brought us here. So Shadows That Bind, which is the first book in the Palisade trilogy. Where did you come up with the premise for this novel in this universe? Was it psychedelics, Ouija board, lack of sleep because your kids were driving you bonkers?
Well, not quite. When I decided I wanted to write a fantasy series, the first thing I definitely wanted was dragons. So I decided to do a little bit of research, and I came across a legend of these creatures called Ikainaman. They're like a mythical creature that are supposed to be one of the, beasts that can actually defeat a dragon. And I love the idea of such big, powerful creatures like dragons fighting these tiny little creatures that you would think would normally, they would be squashed. So, but instead I decided I was going to have those little creatures be the beast and, fight the dragons and bring them to the brink of extinction. So that's kind of where it all started, and it just snowballed from there.
Okay. So before we get started, we all mentioned that we had kids to consider. So at what age range would you say that this book is appropriate for your readers?
Well, there's definitely some violence and some darker themes. I would recommend it for older teens and adults, maybe like 15, 16 and up.
Okay. So some kids are obviously precocious readers. You said violence, but is there any
how graphic is
activity between consenting adult activity that happens behind closed doors, or is it just the violence?
All that happens behind closed doors, but it's happening.
Okay.
It's referenced, but it's very Greek, fade to black.
Yes, fade to black.
Okay. That information helps the parents make their own decisions, because Doc and I were definitely reading things we shouldn't probably have been at younger ages.
Oh, yeah, same here.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought it was a good idea.
Everything I read was mother approved.
All right, Doc, we're going to move on and you're going to ask the next question so we don't step in it.
That's fine. My mother doesn't watch the podcast anyways. So,
that you know of.
No, I'm pretty sure she would have yelled at me already by now. So, on to some of the fun parts. Can we talk about these covers? Because they are so awesome. We flashed them earlier, but let's put them up permanently for a bit more. Because those are awesome.
These are all of the covers because the whole series. But then we're going to go and you're going to get to see book 1's cover, which is just glorious.
It is. It very much is. I love this.
Thank you, guys. Well, I knew from the start that I wanted to feature one of the bondmates on each of the covers. So the bondmates are like the animal companions. So the wolf you see right here is actually named Shadow. And he is a companion to the main character, Connell. And I think the company I used, they're called Midlark. They did an amazing job bringing the wolf Shadow to life. And I just love how the covers turned out.
So
you won with this one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think it's great because the colors are such that it's going to stand out on a thumbnail or even on a bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's awesome because cover art needs to be detailed, but it also needs to be distinctive enough that the details don't get lost.
That's true.
So I think you did an amazing job with that. And what would your 30-second elevator pitch for this book be?
Okay, so I would say in a world filled with magic that has deadly consequences, and ancient evil is stirring. 3 young heroes are thrust into danger. You have Kada, a princess who learns about a plot that endangers her beloved grandfather, the king. Then there's Connell. He's a hunter who survives a deadly betrayal and forms a bond with a wolf. And finally, you have Lark. She's a young mage who is tricked into bondage. All 3 have an important role to play in the future of their kingdom. The story shows them overcoming great odds to fight against the forces threatening their world. And plus, there's dragons.
Oh, yeah.
We know Doc likes dragons.
This is an amazing thing right here that flies and shoots fire.
Wait, do your dragons shoot fire?
Yes, they do. Well, they can shoot fire or other elementals. So, depending on which
That's
dragon,
an interesting question.
Get fire or not.
Doc, can it be a dragon if it doesn't shoot fire?
Yes, it can be a dragon if it doesn't shoot fire. It can even be a dragon if it's bioengineered.
Ooh.
Like burn.
No, that's just talking crazy talk now.
So, JR, you should know about crazy talk. You're very, very good at it.
I do have a special flair. I write about you, don't I? Bada boom. All right, that's the next question. I won't make fun of you too much longer.
So, what is it that really makes this stand out and special in the world of fantasy?
I would definitely say the magic system is unique. There's actually 2 types of magic in the world that I've created. There's an elemental system that sometimes has deadly costs. And then there's also a second system based on the animal companions and their bondmates. So not all the time you get 2 magic systems in one series.
I can see the Sanderson influence right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I was about to say that.
Sanderson.
I mean, he can be a great writer. So, and Lord knows, his world building is second to none. So
definitely.
So, are your books as long as Sanderson's?
No.
How long are they?
No, they're pretty short. I would say I think about 300 pages for the first 2, and then the third one, of course, the third one's always a little longer. That one's closer to 400. And
that's a good size novel, though. That's like, I think that's a lock stock good size.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely good too when you're a newer author to get people used to you. You don't want to come out with the doorstopper right out the gate, for sure.
What? You don't want to intimidate readers or something?
Nah, that's what they tell me anyway. I had my
Fair, you
novel
don't
split
intimidate
into 2.
anybody.
Sure. But all right. So speaking of book 1 specifically, The Shadows That Bind Us, what tropes do you feel like you used the best in this novel?
Well, there's a lot that I tried to give justice to. Of course, we've got the quest, found family. There's a wise mentor figure. We've got elemental magic, family secrets, betrayal. That's just to name a few. I'm sure there's some more in there I'm forgetting.
Okay. So what subgenres or genres do you think? Obviously, it's fantasy, but are there any subgenres of fantasy that this story fits the best into?
Yeah, I would say fantasy adventure for sure. Dark fantasy. We've got some of the darker themes in there, and then epic fantasy too.
Okay. Doc, we're going to have to do a breakdown of what all of that means as a fireside chat. I think that could be fun.
You know what? With epic fantasy and that it's not all 400 pages, I'm impressed. Because epic fantasy really does tend to lay itself out for tomes.
I just like that word. All right, so what can you tell us?
Very accurate.
Tis true. It's like Tolkien just ruined the genre for everybody, but he did create it, kind of. So, what are you gonna do? So let's talk about the story itself. What can you tell us about your main character?
Well, this is a multi-POV story, so there's 3 main characters. We've got Kata, Connell, and Lark. Kata is a born leader as the princess, of course, though she does spend some time growing into that role throughout the series. Connell and Lark are actually brother and sister, and a main part of the plot focuses on them reuniting. Connell, he's loyal to a fault, and he's determined to find his sister Lark, and she's the healer of the group. She's a kind soul, but she does have a few moments where she gets to kick some ass too.
Wish fulfillment? Anybody in particular you were thinking about when you wrote that?
Oh, I feel like there's parts of each of them that I feel like I can relate to in myself, but then a lot of it too is just how I would like to see myself too.
I think that is an unusually honest answer on both aspects.
Yeah.
I mean, your character sound amazing. What?
It does. I was just letting you know you're next because I didn't want you to say I stole more questions.
It's okay. I know you're brain damaged, but I love you anyways. So, do you have any secondary characters within this series?
Sure. There are actually a ton of characters.
What's your favorite one?
I would definitely say my favorite is one of Lark's friends. She ends up on her journey meeting a group of traveling performers, and the leader of the traveling performers is named Dawsius, and he was just a fun character to write. He's a bit flamboyant, but he's got a soft heart. So I really liked writing him.
Can I ask? So, are the companions do they talk? Are they their own separate characters, really, or
they are? They communicate mentally with their bondmate and no one else. So there's a lot of inside jokes going on and whatnot that you get to see the 2 companion pairs speaking, and nobody else really knows what's going on.
So like talking with my brothers. Got it. So I think this is awesome.
Okay.
No, well, I mean, you have people. We all know at least 2 people where they are so in sync. Everybody else is on the outside.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's awesome. What?
So I'm going to interrupt with an add-on question, Doc. Hold on. I'm not stealing your question. So you mentioned that the secondary characters are these bond creatures, the wolf, and then later creatures in later books. So was it difficult, do you think, writing animals that were in some ways almost sentient and had their own personality?
Wait. We haven't decided. Are they sentient in their own right, Amber?
I would definitely say they're sentient, and
okay.
It was a little difficult trying to get in the animals' heads, and even more so to like detail their body movements at times. But I just tried to give them each their own personality too, so that they come across as a character in their own right, and not just like the main characters, you know, addition. They're their own being, you know.
That is not an extension, but it's a partnership.
Mm-hmm. For sure, definitely.
Did you have to do like reading on various animal traits, since some of the animals that you have paired, like obviously wolves really exist, or did you just kind of take some educated guesses at it?
Well, for wolves, I did mostly just judge that with my dog, watching like the animal motions. I did do a bit of research on falcons. That's Muse on the second cover, is the animal companion for Lark. So I don't really have much experience with falcons, unfortunately. They're beautiful animals. So I had to research some of that for sure to feel like I'm doing it justice. And dragons, of course, I just made up because no way to research that.
It is a challenge.
That's just what they want you to think. I'm just saying. We don't know what's at Area 51. Could be dragons.
That is
no, there's an entire anthology all about Area 51. We'll get into that in another episode.
All right. I'm done interrupting you for now, Doc.
For now. So, can you tell us a bit about the bad guy in this series?
Okay. Well, I did mention the Akainamon before. They inspired kind of like the bad beasties. There is another dark force. I don't want to get too deep into that because it would be a bit spoilery. But there are some forces in the background that reveal themselves as the series progresses, for sure.
So,
were they from the IRS? I'm sorry.
I hope not.
I just filled out my tax forms when we recorded this. So.
Oh, no.
Anyway.
I hate the taxes.
So you mentioned that the based on how you describe the world, it sounds like it can be a dangerous place. So would you say almost that the environment itself could be somewhat of a bad guy as well, almost the man versus nature kind of effect?
Oh, definitely. Connell, he kind of has a thing with cliffs where he likes to fall down them. So man versus cliff is a trope that might be unique to my book series.
I think that is normally man versus cliff goes flat. So I think that is definitely a unique trope.
I mean, gravity is real. Wait, do you have gravity in your universe?
For sure, yes.
You could get away with all kinds of things in magical worlds.
Gravity's
Hey, I'm learning. I know magic. You can wave your hands and stuff happens. All right. Anyway, all right. So, it sounds like based on you separated the siblings and you did all kinds of horrible things to your characters. Do you think if you met them in a back alley and they knew who you were, do you think you could survive that fight and walk away? Would they want revenge?
I really don't think so. I feel like I would probably end up with a few flesh wounds at the very least. They'd be pretty mad at me. Yeah, and what's worse is I can't fight at all. So I'd probably be a goner.
I mean, you might be able to talk them out of it. You kind of know all their buttons.
That is true.
This is true.
They say your parents are the ones who know the buttons. Well, you're their parent.
Good point.
That's deep. So since we talked about characters, Since we talked about characters, do you have a favorite character archetype?
Yeah, I would say magicians or mages are probably my favorite. I have a whole school called the Palisade Mages in the series. I don't really get too deep into the actual school aspect of it, but maybe that would be something cool to dig into in a little side plot at some point. Magic schools are always fun.
Magic schools are a lot of fun, and there's they can be really well done with lots of they don't just have to be like the boarding school motif. So I think they're great. So I'm going to kind of ad-lib this question. I know at the bottom it says that this is a trilogy, but one of my favorite series of all time started as a trilogy and spawned many more books. So do you plan on continuing in this world?
Yeah, this trilogy is done, but I do have plans for a second trilogy, and the first book is already written. It's going to be out in the fall sometime. I don't have a definite date for it, but it's going to be where the new characters, there'll be new main characters, but the old characters from this trilogy will kind of be around in like supporting roles. So you still get to see them, but they won't be the main stars.
Okay. So let's, when you write this book, were there any cool scenes that got cut or ideas, concepts from draft one that maybe you used later, maybe you didn't, but that might be entertaining?
So there's another side character, a friend of Lark's, named Tiora. And I was originally planning to write a little bit more of her backstory, maybe even have like a little prequel story for her. But that hasn't evolved yet. So I hope maybe at some point in the future I can find time for that.
Okay. So what can you tell us about the larger universe? What you think makes your universe different from the other ones? Did you just sort of lean into the standard fantasy world trope? Did you try to involve other cultures? Like, what can you tell us about the worlds where the Palisade trilogy happens?
Okay. Well, the world of Drackwood is wider than you get to see in this trilogy. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be making more stories. So the map you get in the front of the books is just the two continents where the stories happen. And you've got like a variety of different environments. There's a jungle, forest, deserts, like icy mountain areas, and then a swamp like bog in between the two continents connecting them. And then later on, I'm going to have more on the other side of the world, kind of like across the sea. So it'll be fun to explore like the whole other side of the world that no one really knows exists while this series is happening.
So
that's cool.
We've done an episode on maps, so I'm really compelled to ask this. But did you design your map first or after you did the world? Or are you kind of like building it as you write?
So I did, as I was sitting down to think up the plot for book one, that was one of the first things I did was make the map. I didn't have every single town detailed out. I kind of added them as needed, but like the basic, formation of the continents, and even like I was even thinking of the different directions that the water currents could move, like that was influencing plot points in my mind. So that was definitely something that got thought up during the world building process for sure.
Awesome.
Okay.
So
is that something that's available to your readers, that maybe snapshots of your sketches, or is that just for you only?
Well, right now it's just for me only. I will admit that I am not a very good artist, so it'd probably be a little chicken scratch. Like, I don't know. Maybe I would have to have somebody fix it up for me if I ever want to show it in the light of day.
That is entirely fair.
Yeah.
So you cannot be skilled and gifted in all the areas. So, I will accept that you are only an amazing writer and you need help with the drawing part. So, as you know, we all know, the best thing about, and you being a scholar of Sanderson's YouTube will definitely believe this, that you have to have internal consistency within a universe, whether it be science or magic. What thing, I'm going to make the gross assumption it's a fantasy series that it would probably be magic, would you want to take from this world and bring to ours?
I would definitely think the healing magic that Lark has would be cool to have, just because I really hate going to the doctor, for one. So if I never had to see a doctor again, that would be pretty freaking awesome.
So this is going to be harder because that's such a good and like very altruistic answer. Because next we normally ask, how would you abuse it? Is it just you'd abuse it to never go to the doctor?
Well, if you consider that abuse, for sure, I would definitely be doing that. Yeah, I feel like that definitely is a hard one to abuse. That's something you would want to share,
So you hinted briefly that you had 2 different magic systems. Can you elaborate a little bit more about those here? Like what are your 2 different magic systems, as much as you can reveal without like, spoilers or breaking your plot yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too involved with the details, but I will say that I'm definitely in love with the idea of magic having consequences. So the magic users in this world, they don't get to just go around willy-nilly shooting magic off whenever they feel like it. They have to learn the skills and they have to accept the consequences that come with it, which are sometimes pretty awful consequences.
Okay. And how do you determine what consequences you're going to give? You just, roll the dice, or is there like if this then that, where there's an actual procedure that you can consult your little hieroglyphic charts or whatever?
Yeah, well, I've got a pretty hard system, I would say. So it's you can go a little bit. I guess I could jiggle it around, but for the most part, the consequence if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it.
So,
okay,
how did you go about designing this magical system? Because it seems like there's 2 systems. So, can you get?
Well, the main one is an elemental system, but then it's got the consequences or the costs attached to it. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's pretty much, I base that on just other elemental stuff I've seen.
So now how common is that system, that magic? Like, are we talking 20%, 50% of the population are magic users?
It's not super common. So the way I have it set up is for the most part, it's hereditary. Every once in a blue moon, somebody might be born with it just out of nowhere. But for the most part, it runs in families. And probably like 10% of the population has it. So kind of common, but not super common.
So common enough that it's not like, shh, it's a secret.
Yes. The second system, on the other hand, is super rare. So there are very few people who have the animal companions in this world.
Man, they sound like super amazing. So he's so disappointed.
Yeah.
So you obviously have these fantastical creatures in your world, and you mentioned a little bit about how you came up with the dragons, for instance. But as a general rule, when you're writing, so you don't have to apply it to just this series because obviously you're working on more. But how do you go about creating these magical creatures? Do you let your nightmares inspire you, Mother Nature, myth, legends, and lore? Like, what's your process?
Well, definitely, I would say animals are a big inspiration. I've got my kid with all the nature documentaries all the time. And then I do love looking into myths as well. And then just taking those and kind of tweaking it and making it my own or making it fit into the world.
Okay. That's a good way to do it. I mean, the myths and lore are very deep wells to go to.
Mm-hmm. Would you want to live in this world?
I don't know.
That's not a good
That's not a good face.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, yeah, probably not.
The problem is most fantasy worlds don't have running water.
Yeah, that's
I got
true.
kind of attached to that.
It's like medieval level technology, so that's like the major downside right there.
I was
I said before, I don't know how to fight. I mean, I would probably be dead. I mean, maybe if I had some skills, I'd be all right, but I don't.
plot armor.
Reading a book that's called what's called Gaslamp Fantasy. So like they have early pistols. There's some plumbing-esque things, and I'm like, I could possibly do that world.
Yeah, I could get down with that more than the medieval.
I know how to shoot a rifle already.
Okay, so
we were all taught that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not disagreeing with you.
I think you just sounded
so clearly this. No, I'm just trying to imagine having to live in a medieval world. I just don't know that I'd want to do that.
You wouldn't be able to do it. They don't have Instapot.
No, or crock pots. I mean, I kind of like not dying of scurvy.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I would miss my air fryer for sure.
Ooh.
Absolutely. Doc got me hooked on the stinking air fryer. It's like a drug. Like, what else can I stick in the air fryer and cook delicious food?
No. Do not blame me. Blame Mel Todd. She does everything. I do not do my steak in there. I draw the line.
Yeah, my husband's obsessed. He eats chicken wings out of the air fryer about once a week.
I will admit, chicken wings, pizza pocket thingies, like the little pizza rolls, the Brazzi bites, which you can get at Costco. Those are like my 3 favorite things for an air fryer. Not steak.
See, we always end up going to food on this podcast. I almost think, Doc, we need a second podcast where we just talk about food and drool. No, because that's just going to make me hungry and I'll break my diet. No, we better not.
As it is, it's bad enough that all Facebook wants to show me is like men making pastries.
There's jokes in there somewhere, but this is a family-friendly show, so we're just going to move right along.
I love my croissant.
As we wrap this interview up, was there anything about Shadows That Bind Us and the Palisade trilogy that we didn't ask that you wanted to tell us?
Sure. I'd just like to let you guys all know where to get it if you're interested. The ebook is an Amazon exclusive, and it's also in Kindle Unlimited. And you can grab the paperback from barnesandnoble.com or any major book retailers. And I've listed the book with the Library of Congress, so you can even request a copy be added to your library if you'd like.
Very smart and savvy with the last one. I'm very impressed because not a lot of authors think to get that done when they're newer.
Yeah, I'm definitely hoping to see some libraries out there. That would be really cool.
I've been spending a lot more time at libraries because my son likes to read those Japanese picture book thingies, like, was it anime or I don't know.
Hold on,
yeah, he reads those and they're like $5 to $10 each, and he can read it in like 3 to 5 minutes because pictures. Wow. Libraries are a good thing.
For sure.
So, Doc, I can tell you're like over there.
Somebody to do in Japan. There's a place where you can go and you like rent like a cubicle, and they have a library of mangas, and you just go and you pay for the cubicle by the hour, and you just check out whatever manga you want while you're there.
Do they have
if you're a fast reader, that could
down if they had snacks.
No, they do have snacks. They were actually really smart, and they put a cafe in there, so like you're trapped there for like 4 or 5 hours.
That's pretty awesome.
It's incredibly savvy.
That's the one thing the libraries around here are missing is snacks.
I know, right? I'm in the South where we're obsessed with food, and we still don't have snacks in our libraries, man.
I know we got to get with the times, apparently. But all right, so before we let you go, is there any plans to put this out in audiobook in some point in the future?
Definitely, that's on the plans for the future. Not just quite yet. I've got to just focusing right now on getting all 3 out. The 3rd book is coming out very soon. Probably by the time this airs, it'll be out. So maybe I can concentrate on audio after that.
Okay. So, dear listener, this is the time where I remind you that your thoughts matter. So please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. And if she gets enough book reviews to sell more books, she can afford to put an audiobook out there for all those people that read with their ears. So do your part, people. It really makes a difference. And with that said, Miss Amber L. Werner, can you tell the listeners how they can find you on the interwebs?
Sure. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as Amber L. Werner. And you can also reach me on my website at amberlwerner.com.
Outstanding. You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/SF_fantasy_show. Sierra Foxtrot _fantasy_show. You can email us at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group where all the shenanigans happen over at facebook.com/groups/blastersandbladespodcast. Again, /groups/blastersandbladespodcast. Be sure to send Doc all the candy for her son on Father's Day. She really wants you to do that. And we have a Facebook.
You know what? I'm okay with that.
Good. We have a Facebook page where you can also follow where you can follow. We share. That's an evil laugh if I've ever heard one. We share our episodes, fun books that we find on various book review sites, all kinds of cool stuff, slightly different than what's in the group. So it's worth following both. We have a website over at anchor.fm/blasters tag blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where you can support the show for as little as 99 cents a month. You can help keep the lights on. These episodes aren't free to produce. We do have to pay for the infrastructure and the back end. And so everything you do to help is greatly appreciated. If you wanted to support the show more directly, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast. And I promise I will keep my co-hosts, Doc Cisca and Nick Garber, duly, fed as we send them all the pastries we can find. They will eat pastries until their face explodes.
My face will never explode. I will be
Doc's
very
like, bring it on.
I accept this challenge.
She's like, game on. All right, Doc, bring us home.
Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us tonight. On behalf of the absent-brained Nick Garber, the addle-brained JR, I am the spastic-brained Cisca. This was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back here, same time, same place, same, I don't know. I can't remember what else I'm supposed to say.
Clearly she needs more coffee, but yeah, that's a wrap, people. Amber, thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right. We look forward to seeing you again next week, dear